Hello, I'm going to be going over WILOC number 21, review. Solving this equation, 6n plus 4 equals negative 14. So this one should be very simple. In this case, we want this variable to be alone. So to do that, we have to subtract 4 on both sides, equals negative 18, 6n. Now, we have to get rid of this 6. So what do we do? We divide by 6 on both sides, and that gives you n is equal to negative 3. And that is your answer. Moving on, solve the equation again, but this time you're just given a polynomial equaling to 0. So in this case, you have to factor. How can we factor x squared minus 10x plus 21? Well, we have to find the common factors for 21, which is 21 times 1, 7 times 3, and that's about it. Now, does this combination work? Well, 21 times 1 is 21, but there's no way you can get negative 10x with 21 times 1, so you cross out that combination. However, for 7 and 3, 7 times 3 is 21, but you can also get, if you sum it up together, you would get 10. But in this case, since there is a negative in front of the 10x, you have to make sure to put negative on both of them. Since you still need a positive here, but you need a sum of a negative. So in that case, when you do that, x minus 7, x minus 3, that gives you, if you make that equal to 0. Now, if we FOIL it out to check our work, x times x is x squared. Negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 7 times negative 3 is plus 21. Does that equal this equation? Yes, it does. X squared minus 10x plus 21. So this is the same thing as this. So with that information, we know that x minus 7 times x minus 3 is equal to 0. In that case, x is equal to 7 and x is equal to 3. And those are your two solutions for this equation. Moving on. Let's try solving this one. X squared minus 5x minus 24. So basically, it's the same process as before. Find the common factors of negative 24. 2 times 12. 3 times 8. 4 times 6. Or 1 times 24. And they have to have a sum of negative 5. So, or a difference of negative 5. Well, you know 1 times 24. There's no way you can get that. 12 times 2, well, that is 24. But if you do 12 minus 2, that'd just be 10. 12 plus 2, that would be 14. Nowhere near this sum, so you can cross that out. 3 times 8. 3 times 8 is 24. And if you subtract 3 from 8, you get 5, which is the sum. So we know that this is our combination. However, there is a negative here and a negative here. So that means that one of your factors has to be a negative number. But in this case, which one would it be? Well, in this case, your negative number would be the highest number. Since your 5 has to be a negative, negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. So in that case, you know that 8 has to be the negative number. So those are your two factors. X plus 3, x minus 8 is equal to 0. In that case, x is equal to 8 and x is equal to negative 3. And that's your answer for x squared minus 5x minus 24. And the reason why we're able to do this is because it's equal to 0. And because it is equal to 0, we can use the product property, the zero product property. Moving on. Factor a trinomial in two variables. So in this case, you have x squared minus 4xy plus 4y squared. Now this one's a little bit tricky. This one has two variables. So how do we factor this out? Well, we just think of it like a regular problem. What are the factors of this? Well, it could be 2y squared, and that's about it. So 2y squared is just 2y times 2y. So that could be that piece of your equation. Now you have to have negative 4xy. So that means, tracking backwards, we know that this has to be x squared. So we know that it's going to be like this because x times x is x squared, and there's no other way to get x squared. Continuing on, we need a sum of negative 4. So how do we do that? We know that this 4y squared has to be a positive. This 4y squared has to be a positive, but this 4xy has to be a negative. So then that means that both of these factors have to be negative for them to be positive here, but negative here. So if they're both negative, you get x minus 2y and x minus 2y. And that is your answer for factoring out the trinomial in two variables for this specific equation. Let's try one more problem. A squared plus 2ab minus 15b squared. Let me try color coding this. A, B, B. So in this case, how can we factor out 15b squared? Well, the combinations of 15 are the most important one because b squared is just b times b. So we don't have to worry about that. But 15, it could be 5 times 3 or 15 times 1. But in this case, since this is a 2, we know that it's not this combination. It's more likely this combination that we're going to have to use. Now, because the third term is a negative, we're going to have to multiply this term, and it has to produce a negative. So one of these terms have to be a negative. However, to determine which one would be the negative one, we have to look at 2ab. Since 2ab is positive, we know that the greater term out of these two choices has to be the positive, since it needs to produce a positive number. So in that case, your answer can only be A plus 5b times A times A minus 3b. And that's how you factor that equation out. Now, to make sure, 5b times negative 3b is negative 15b squared. 5ab minus 3ab is 2ab, positive 2ab, so that's correct. And a times a is just a squared. And that's exactly what you have before you factored it out. So this is your answer. Well, that's it for today. This was Wylock number 21.